Celia, good morning to you. The couple confirming this in a statement we're about to show you. The couple filing for divorce in Manhattan Supreme Court.
What if I told you that the woman who stayed silent through one of the messiest divorces in political history is finally ready to speak? For 6 long years, Vanessa Trump disappeared completely from public view after her shocking split from Donald Trump Jr. She never gave interviews, never wrote tell-all books, and never posted angry messages on social media. But now, at 47 years old, she's sending signals that have everyone asking the same question. What does she know, and why is she finally ready to let the world see it? This isn't just another celebrity comeback story. This is about a woman who witnessed 13 years of Trump family secrets, who lived through betrayal that made headlines around the world, and who chose silence when everyone expected her to fight back. But that silence might be coming to an end, and what she reveals could change everything we think we know about life inside America's most controversial political family. Let me take you back to where this all began, because to understand why Vanessa's potential return to public life matters so much, you need to know who she really was before she became a Trump. Vanessa Hayden grew up in one of New York City's wealthiest neighborhoods, the Upper East Side. Her father Charles was a successful lawyer, and her mother Bonnie owned a modeling agency. This meant young Vanessa got to see 2 very different worlds up close: the serious world of law and business, and the glamorous but sometimes fake world of fashion and entertainment. Most kids with lawyer parents end up becoming lawyers themselves, but Vanessa chose a completely different path. By the time she was a teenager, she had signed with Wilhelmina Models, which was one of the biggest modeling agencies in New York. She walked in fashion shows, appeared in magazines, and did photo shoots for catalogs. People who worked with her back then remember her as someone who was naturally elegant and always very careful about how she presented herself to others. She wasn't the type of model who tried to get attention by being loud or dramatic. Instead, she had this quiet confidence that made people notice her without her having to try too hard. This ability to be seen but stay private would become the most important skill in her entire life, though she probably didn't know it at the time. Vanessa even tried acting for a little while, appearing in a movie called Something's Got to Give, with famous actors Diane Keaton and Jack Nicholson in 2003. But acting wasn't really her main goal. It was more like another way to move in the right social circles and meet important people without making a big deal about herself. She understood even then that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is be present without saying much. Everything in Vanessa's life changed when she met Donald Trump Jr. in the early 2000s. Their first meeting happened at a fashion event, and according to most stories, Donald Trump Sr. himself helped set them up. The connection between Vanessa and Don Jr. wasn't instant love at first sight, but they eventually started dating and seemed to really enjoy each other's company. By 2005, they were getting married in what looked like a real-life fairy tale wedding. The ceremony happened at Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump's famous resort in Florida, and it had everything you could imagine: golden decorations, celebrity guests, and enough media coverage to make it feel like a royal wedding. From the outside, everything looked absolutely perfect. But even from the very beginning, anyone paying attention could see that Vanessa and Don Jr. were very different types of people. Don Jr. was loud, loved being the center of attention, and was already getting involved in politics and business controversies. Vanessa, on the other hand, was much quieter, more focused on traditional family values, and seemed to prefer staying out of the spotlight completely. She took her role as a wife and mother very seriously, and over the next 13 years, she dedicated herself to raising their 5 children, while deliberately avoiding all the drama that constantly surrounded the Trump family. This wasn't easy to do, because the Trump name was always in the news for one reason or another, but Vanessa managed to keep herself and her kids mostly out of the public eye. Throughout their entire marriage, Vanessa made what seemed like a very conscious choice to stay silent about almost everything related to the Trump family business and politics. She didn't start her own companies, she didn't write books or give interviews, and she didn't try to build her own personal brand the way other Trump family members did. While women like Ivanka Trump and Melania Trump were constantly in the news being either praised or criticized for their public roles, Vanessa kept her distance from all of that. She avoided political events, stayed off social media completely, and never tried to promote herself or get attention in any way. But her silence wasn't because she was weak or scared. Looking back now, it seems like she understood something very important about the Trump family that maybe even they didn't understand about themselves. She realized that in a family where attention and controversy were treated like valuable currency, the smartest thing she could do was refuse to play that game at all. She rarely showed up at political rallies or campaign events. You almost never saw her in official family photos or at White House functions. She skipped interviews entirely and seemed to go out of her way to avoid any situation where reporters might try to ask her questions. Even though she was raising 5 children in a world where privacy is almost impossible to find, especially when you're part of such a famous family, she somehow managed to keep her personal life separate from all the political drama. Friends and family members who knew Vanessa during this time described her as extremely loyal to her husband and very protective of her children, but also somewhat isolated from the rest of the Trump family activities. It was clear that she was working very hard to stay away from all the loud arguments, public fights, and messy situations that seemed to follow the Trump name wherever it went. When Donald Trump became president in 2016, most of his family members moved into very public roles in the White House or in supporting his political career. But Vanessa didn't follow that path at all. Even though she was technically part of the presidential family through her marriage to Don Jr., she stayed completely in the background. She made no public statements about politics, appeared at no official events, and gave absolutely no interviews to newspapers, magazines, or television shows. She managed to stay totally silent and invisible, while her father-in-law was literally the most powerful person in the world, and her husband was becoming one of his most vocal supporters and defenders. But while Vanessa was maintaining her careful silence and trying to protect her family's privacy, troubling stories about her husband were starting to spread in the media. Reports began appearing that suggested Don Jr. was having affairs and spending long periods of time away from home without good explanations for where he was or what he was doing. The most serious of these rumors involved a singer named Aubrey O'Day, and the alleged affair was said to have happened around 2011 or 2012, while Vanessa was pregnant with their 3rd child. This wasn't just gossip in tabloid magazines. There seemed to be real evidence, including text messages, photos, and other proof that made the story very difficult to ignore or deny. For most people, learning that your husband cheated on you while you were pregnant and taking care of small children would be devastating enough to make them want to fight back publicly, or at least defend themselves in some way. But Vanessa still didn't break her silence. She didn't give angry interviews. She didn't post anything on social media, and she didn't try to tell her side of the story to the press. Instead, she seemed to be quietly gathering information, talking to lawyers, and making very careful plans about what she wanted to do next. People close to her said that while she may have suspected something was wrong in her marriage for a while, she didn't fully understand how serious the situation was until she had all the facts. In March 2018, after 13 years of marriage and months of careful planning, Vanessa finally took action. She filed for divorce from Donald Trump Jr. in Manhattan Supreme Court. But even then, even when she was officially ending her marriage, she still didn't speak to the public about what had happened or why she was making this decision. There were no dramatic television interviews where she talked about feeling betrayed. There were no angry social media posts where she attacked her husband or tried to embarrass him. There were no magazine articles where she shared her side of the story or tried to make people feel sorry for her. She simply filed the legal paperwork and stepped even further back from public view. This kind of self-control and discipline is extremely rare, especially when it comes to high-profile divorces involving famous families. Most people in Vanessa's situation would have been tempted to fight back publicly, to try to damage their ex-husband's reputation, or at least to defend themselves against all the speculation and rumors that were flying around. But Vanessa chose a completely different strategy. She filed for what's called an uncontested divorce, which means both parties agreed to end the marriage without fighting about it in court. She also managed to move the entire legal process into private courtrooms where the media and the public couldn't see what was happening. Legal experts said this was clearly designed to protect both her financial interests and her children's privacy. By keeping everything behind closed doors, she made sure that embarrassing details about the marriage, information about money and property, and sensitive issues involving the kids would never become public knowledge. Her quiet approach worked exactly the way she wanted it to. She managed to protect both her own reputation and her family's privacy completely. She didn't appear on talk shows, didn't give interviews to magazines, and didn't try to influence public opinion about what had gone wrong in her marriage. She simply handled everything through the legal system and then disappeared from public view almost entirely. But that retreat from the spotlight might have been exactly what Vanessa needed to rebuild her life and figure out what she wanted to do next. What makes her different from almost everyone else who has been involved with the Trump family is that she seems to understand something very important about the real power of staying quiet and choosing your moments carefully. In a world where everyone shares every thought and feeling on social media, where people fight their personal battles in public, and where being seen and heard is considered more important than almost anything else, Vanessa's decision to stay silent feels almost revolutionary. While other members of the Trump family were getting more and more involved in political fights and public controversies, she completely refused to participate in any of that drama. For the past 6 years, Vanessa has been almost completely invisible to the public. She's focused on raising her children, rebuilding her personal life, and staying as far away as possible from anything related to Trump family politics or business. She's given no interviews, made no public appearances, and seemed perfectly content to let the world forget about her entirely. But now, at 47 years old, there are signs that something might be changing. Vanessa isn't making big announcements or giving dramatic interviews, but she's starting to send subtle signals that suggest she might be ready to step back into public view, on her own terms and for her own reasons. It all started with something that might seem very small to most people, but was actually huge for someone like Vanessa. In early 2025, she made a post on social media for the first time in years. For anyone else, this wouldn't be news at all, but for someone who had avoided social media completely since her divorce, even one post was significant. But what made this particular post real? The interesting wasn't just that she was back on social media, but what the post revealed about her personal life. Without using any words or making any direct statements, Vanessa quietly confirmed something that people had been whispering about for months. She appeared to have a connection with golf legend Tiger Woods. This wasn't a dramatic announcement with professional photos and press releases. Instead, Vanessa simply shared a post that Tiger had made about a new charity project he was working on. At first glance, it looked like she was just supporting a good cause, but for someone who had stayed off social media for years, this felt very calculated and intentional. Tiger had just announced a new partnership with Augusta National Golf Club to create educational programs and give more kids access to golf. It was part of his ongoing effort to focus on positive work and rebuild his reputation after his own personal scandals from years ago. When Vanessa shared his post without any explanation or comment, it definitely didn't seem random. The rumors about Vanessa and Tiger had actually been circulating quietly for months before this social media post. Most of the talk was coming from people in Palm Beach, Florida, where both Vanessa and Tiger live and often attend the same social events and charity functions. People had started noticing that they seemed comfortable with each other at fundraisers and school events. They had been seen sitting near each other at a hospital benefit dinner, and both had attended several events hosted by mutual friends. None of these interactions proved anything definitive, but the pattern was hard to ignore for people who pay attention to these kinds of social connections. What made the rumors more believable was that their children attend the same exclusive private school in the Palm Beach area. This school is known for protecting the privacy of high-profile families, including celebrities, business leaders, and political figures. Sources familiar with the school said that Vanessa and Tiger were friendly with each other, but kept their interactions very professional and careful. For two people who have both lived through very public scandals and intense media scrutiny, being careful about how they're seen together isn't really a choice. It's absolutely necessary for protecting their families and their reputations. The way they've been handling their apparent relationship shows the same kind of quiet, controlled approach that has defined Vanessa's entire adult life. That Instagram post mattered so much because it came from someone who had been completely silent for years. After her divorce, Vanessa had stepped away from public life almost entirely. Unlike other people connected to the Trump name, she didn't try to reinvent herself, didn't chase fame or attention, and didn't try to build a career based on her famous connections. She didn't join political campaigns, didn't write books, and didn't try to turn her experience as a Trump family member into any kind of business opportunity. So when she finally posted something on social media after all that time, everyone who was paying attention knew it wasn't going to be meaningless or accidental. In today's world, even the smallest social media activity can carry enormous significance, especially when it comes from someone who has been deliberately invisible for years. This post felt less like supporting a charity and more like making a personal statement about who she chooses to associate with and what values are important to her. And Tiger Woods represents something very different from Thais, Trump family world that Vanessa left behind. Tiger is one of the most successful athletes in history, but he's also someone who has worked hard to rebuild his life and reputation after making serious mistakes. His early career made him a global superstar, but his personal problems nearly destroyed everything he had worked for. However, his comeback in professional golf, combined with his extensive charity work and focus on helping young people, has helped him earn back respect and admiration from people around the world. He successfully moved from being seen as someone who had ruined his life to someone who had learned from his mistakes and was working to make positive contributions to society. That's the version of Tiger Woods that Vanessa chose to publicly connect herself with, and that choice says a lot about where she is in her own life and what she values now. Unlike the Trump family, Tiger stays completely away from politics. He doesn't attend political rallies, doesn't share political opinions on social media, and keeps his personal views private. That kind of approach to public life might be exactly what appeals to Vanessa, who spent years trying to distance herself from Trump family politics and controversy. If she really is starting a new chapter in her life where she's more visible to the public, Tiger could represent the kind of person she feels comfortable being associated with. Someone focused on personal growth, positive impact, and building a meaningful legacy. What's also interesting is what Vanessa and Tiger seem to have in common beyond their apparent personal connection. Both are parents who are raising children that have grown up in the shadow of their parents' very public lives and very public mistakes. Both went through divorces that became major news stories and had to rebuild their lives while dealing with intense media attention. And both now seem more interested in protecting their privacy while carefully stepping back into public view on their own terms. If they really are in a relationship, it's not just another celebrity romance. It represents a significant change in how Vanessa is choosing to present herself to the world. Within hours of that Instagram post, entertainment media picked up the story and started speculating about what it might mean. Some reporters called it a quiet way of going public with a new relationship. Others wondered if it was the beginning of a larger plan for Vanessa to return to public life in a bigger way. Some people questioned whether her apparent connection to Tiger was genuine or if it was more about improving her own public image by associating with someone who had successfully rebuilt his reputation. But regardless of her motivations, the result was clear. People were paying attention to Vanessa again, and this time it wasn't just because of her connection to the Trump family. The timing of her return to any kind of public attention is really significant. Over the past few years, the Trump name has become even more controversial and divisive than it was during Donald Trump's presidency. While some members of the family have gotten more involved in politics and media, Vanessa has stayed completely out of sight. Her decision to emerge now, especially in connection with someone like Tiger Woods, who represents positive values and personal redemption, suggests that she might be working to create a completely new public identity for herself. One that has nothing to do with Trump politics, and everything to do with her own values, interests, and goals. This possibility has apparently caused some concern among people connected to the Trump family. Some observers point out that Vanessa was present for many important moments during the family's rise to political power. She witnessed private conversations, saw how decisions were made, and was around for events that never became public knowledge. Since she has never spoken publicly about any of her experiences with the Trump family, her silence carries a weight and credibility that most people don't have. If she ever decided to write a book, give interviews, or simply maintain a more visible public presence, she could potentially share stories and perspectives that might change how people understand the Trump family's political journey. There's no sign that she's planning to do anything like that, but the simple fact that she's no longer completely invisible opens up new possibilities and questions about what might come next. Is she testing the waters to see how the public responds to seeing her again? Is she preparing for a more significant return to public life? Or is she simply living her life and letting people draw their own conclusions? Whatever the truth is, one thing is absolutely certain. Vanessa Trump is no longer hiding from public view, and she's not making careless or impulsive decisions about how she presents herself. She's moving carefully, quietly, and in ways that leave room for different interpretations, while still sending clear messages about her priorities and values. That's exactly why her recent activity has attracted so much attention from both the media and the general public. It's not just about who she might be dating or what her personal life looks like now. It's about what her choices might mean for her future and how they might change the way people see her, not as Donald Trump Jr.'s ex-wife, but as an independent person with her own story to tell. For now, neither Vanessa nor Tiger has made any official statements about their relationship or their future plans. They're both keeping their private lives genuinely private while still allowing people to see enough to draw reasonable conclusions. But the energy and attention around Vanessa feels completely different now than it has more in years. She's communicating again, not through words but through actions and choices that speak volumes about who she is now and what matters to her. Those small but deliberate decisions are creating a new picture of someone who once lived completely outside the public eye, but who might now be ready to step back into it on her own terms and for her own reasons. If this pattern continues, Vanessa may soon become much more visible in public discussions, media coverage, and social conversations. Not because she's seeking attention or fame for its own sake, but because she's demonstrating a different kind of personal power. The kind that comes from patience, careful planning, and showing up in public exactly when and how it matters most. The woman who chose silence as her protection for so many years might now be ready to use that same strategic thinking as her strength. And if that's true, we might all be about to learn much more about Vanessa Trump than we ever knew before. Her story is far from over. In fact, it might just be beginning. After years of staying hidden, while one of America's most watched families dominated every news cycle, Vanessa appears to be finally ready to write her own chapters. And something tells me those chapters are going to be absolutely fascinating to read. If this story has opened your eyes to who Vanessa Trump really is and made you curious about what she might do next, please hit that like button and share this video with anyone who needs to understand the full picture. Subscribe to our channel for more in-depth coverage of the stories behind the headlines and the people who shape them. And remember, sometimes the most powerful voices are the ones that stay quiet until they're absolutely ready to be heard. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.